Mm. So, our November theme is I stand for spiritually motivated moral leadership, spiritual guidance. Today, our topic is self mastery and leadership. John Heider, in The Tao of Leadership, alludes to the value of self mastery and leadership in this passage. To know how other people behave takes intelligence, but to know myself takes wisdom. To manage other people's lives takes strength, but to manage my own life takes true power. If I am content with what I have, I can live simply and enjoy both prosperity and free time. If my goals are clear, I can achieve them without fuss. If I am at peace with myself, I will not spend my life force in conflict. And Sufi master Rumi wrote, "Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I am changing myself." Let us affirm together. Conscious of my union with God, the universal love intelligence, I am guided into acts of selfless service for the highest well-being of all, placing the well-being of all above the well-being of myself alone. I grow in love, peace, power, and well-being. I stand for spiritually motivated moral leadership.
Just pop the string.
So leadership, spiritually motivated moral leadership, and today the focus on self-mastery. And so I ran across a beautiful story that was written by a person who loved rafting. And it so beautifully illustrates to me the contrast between the kind of leadership that we're not talking about today and the leadership that we are talking about not only today but this entire month. And so this rafter took two different trips on the Motu River, which for any of you who have been to New Zealand, it's on the North Island and it crosses some of the wildest areas in the North Island, so beautiful wilderness areas. And the very first time, the guide was a guy by the name of Buzz. And Buzz was an American who had a considerable amount of experience in leading guided trips. And so the whole first day was spent honing skills and also listening to every single command that he said so that they wouldn't make any mistakes as they were going through the fury of the boiling rivers, as the rapids as they were going down the river. So instruction was very specific and very tight, and you had to listen to the command of Buzz if you were to come out safely. So over the course of time, what happened is they practiced. It took them a while to get into alignment and to follow the immediate command and paddle their way as Buzz directed. And they finally got down to the river, the end of the river, and they knew that they had triumphed. They had beat the river, and they felt powerful. They felt like they had a great accomplishment. So the next time around, when this rafter came to New Zealand and was heading down the Motu River, he had a very different kind of leader. This was a New Zealander. And the New Zealanders like to call each other Kiwis. So they called him, he said this particular Kiwi. And it's a very loving term, by the way. And so as they meet this particular New Zealander, the Kiwi, he has this very soft-spoken voice. In fact, they're thinking, how are we going to even hear him over the sounds of the rapids? And what happened, though, is that they witnessed him, they watched him just study the river, noticing all of the little whirlpools and the movements around the rocks. And what he would do is he would just nod when it was time to go this way and that way. And pretty soon they found they were just gracefully working together and moving through and around the rocks and down the river. And it was just so pleasurable. And so after a period of time, he would say, okay, you take over. You're the leader this time, to one of the people. And of course, they'd had enough time to witness him, and so they took his lead and gently led the rest of the group. So one by one, they all each had a turn to experience it, and they became one with the river, because they were really focused in the present moment, and they were really aware of all of the currents and if they had to lean one direction or the other and how to make it around the rocks. And they came to the end of the river feeling not like they'd been in a contest or fought and won, but feeling as if they had had a wonderful experience, that they had a new vision of what it might be like to raft, and that they felt an incredible, deep inner happiness. Two different kinds of leadership. And today we're talking about the second kind, which is a kind of leadership that leads by example, stays in the present moment, meets the needs of the situation, and who encourages leadership in others. And it's not only a new way of leading. This is something that was taught in the Tao Te Ching centuries and centuries and centuries ago. I think it was the 6th century BC. So it seems new, but it's really not new. It's a wisdom that's been passed down through the ages, and that's really coming to the surface again. So mastery then, we're talking about self-mastery, and mastery itself is a state of being highly skilled and proficient at whatever it is that you choose to do. And it could, when you think about it, it could take more than a lifetime to master all the skills that we'd want to master, whether it's relationship, money, career, or health. However, the awesome thing about self-mastery is that it is mastery at the highest level. In fact, it's a shortcut to mastering the rest of our lives. That's the awesome thing about it, is we can spend all this time on all the individual things, and I'm not saying not to, or we could focus on mastering the self, the divine self, or actually it's the mastery of the divine self. It's shifting our awareness into who we are in truth and living from that place so that we're able to master the mind, the emotions, and our actions in the direction that we would like to go. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi puts it this way. He said, capture the fort and all the territory will be yours. And Jesus of Nazareth said, seek first the kingdom and all else shall be added. It's the same idea. If we reach or attain self-mastery, all else is added. Bless you.
Quite an affirmation.
So self-mastery then is the foundation of enlightened leadership. And so there's some steps that we can follow to carry ourselves along the path of self-mastery. And so what I'm going to be talking about today in specific are awareness, which is always the first step to anything, choice, and then decision, action, focus. That's another step. And the final is realization. So awareness, the first step. What is it that we are to become aware of? So aware of the nature of ultimate reality, of the divine, of, whatever you call it, the presence of God, life, spirit, to become aware of the nature of this ultimate presence. And so many of the mystics talk about this presence as being omnipresence, present everywhere in its totality and fullness, which kind of blows the human mind because the human mind sees separation, or the eyes see separation. But we're talking about a presence who is a oneness, an indivisible presence from which all of life arises. And so when we move into that awareness of this nature, we realize that our true identity then is one and the same as this presence. We're individualized expressions, but we are that presence made in its likeness and image. So our nature is that infinite possibility and potentiality, that creativity, the presence of love and peace and understanding. And as we align with that, we know that our lives work better. So it's alignment, it's continued alignment with what is our true nature. It's also important to be aware of spiritual law. There's the inspiration and the presence of the divine as love, but there is also law. There's love and law. And universal law dictates that, and it's just built in. It's part of who we are and what life is, that our thoughts create our reality. And so as we become aware of how that works and give ourselves some time to understand it and to practice it, we're expanding our awareness. And then we ultimately become the master of our thoughts, our beliefs, and the things of consciousness, because we know consciousness is cause. Our consciousness, the field or atmosphere that we carry around with us, is that which is the cause of our reality. So this takes practice. The more we practice, the more proficient we become. Without practice, no mastery. And when we're talking about a committed practice over a long period of time, this isn't like an instantaneous gratification thing. It truly is, like anything else in life, something that you just continue to do day by day. Awareness is also being aware of the present moment, and the New Zealander showed the people that were in his raft how that worked. He was attentive to what was happening in the moment. He stayed there. He didn't allow his mind to wander to the past or the future, but to be completely present with the river and the direction that things were flowing. So focusing on what's happening now, here now in this moment. What are our breath, our body sensations? Noticing the thoughts as they come and go, but realizing that's not who we are, that's not our identity. So meditation then helps us to connect to this true nature of who we are, the observer self, which is our true self. So I'd like you to close your eyes for a moment. We're going to do just a short practice and effortlessly witness the coming and the going of the breath. Don't try to control it. Just watch it. Just for a moment. We're not going to do this for very long. So we're witnessing the in-breath and the out-breath. And noticing any body sensations. And now any sounds. Ask yourself who is watching, who is feeling, who is hearing. And this is your higher self. This is your true self. This is being aware. So you can open your eyes. So awareness. The second step to self-mastery is choice. It's realizing that we are gifted with, we are born with, we inherit freedom of choice, the power to choose. Everybody has it. It's just a matter of being aware that we do have it. And so our choices create our lives. And when we allow fear to choose, when we allow what some people call the ego to choose, the patterns that we've developed, when we allow that to choose, we choose from a place of lower vibration and we get results that we really might not like and usually don't like. However, when we move into self-mastery, we choose from a different place. We choose from the heart, which is choosing from love, choosing from wisdom. That takes surrender. Surrendering the old patterns, the old ways of doing it, letting fear run the show, and allowing the heart to guide us. It's surrendering to the heart, which is surrendering to the true self, the God self. So as we choose from the heart, there are certain things that tend to show up. Forgiveness, compassion, patience, patience to accept what is, and patience to allow things to unfold in their own time. That's one of my big challenges, to allow things to unfold in their own time. It also means choosing truthfulness with self and others, purity in your lifestyle, choosing healthy food and getting enough rest and exercise and all of those things that make for a healthy life. It means choosing impeccability, being our best in every situation that we're in, with humility and with respect for ourselves and others. And the last choice is a choice of faith in God and ultimate reality, a faith in divine inspiration moving into action through us, a faith in universal law, and a faith in our ability to be masterful because of who we are, made in the likeness and image of God. So when we choose to follow inner wisdom, when we do this true surrender, there's a term that's called. It's called discernment. Discernment, choosing from a place of wisdom. And if we choose, as the New Zealander did, to follow nature's forces with inner wisdom, in cooperation with the law, in cooperation with others, then things flow better, particularly when our alignment is with the good, the true, and the beautiful, when we keep that as our purpose. So that's self-mastery that's based on choice, on wise choices, on discernment. So let's practice that for a moment. I always like to bring this into practicality. Close your eyes for a minute. And what is one thing that you keep doing that causes discomfort, a habit pattern that you'd really like to let go of? Bring your awareness into your heart center and ask, what would the highest version of myself do or say in this situation? So take a breath. Something you can practice on your own. Decision, action, focus, the next step. So here's the deal. It's important to understand that the way that we are wired is for survival. So what's called the ego, I'd like to think of as kind of the status quo way things are. There's a part of us that tends to cling on to things as they are, even if there's a part of us that says, I want things to be different. But because of the survival mechanism that's built in to us, that fight or flight response, there's a tendency to try to keep the status quo. And so if we set out to choose to have things to be different, if we decide, I want things to be different, I want to do this differently, I want to meditate daily, the ego will distract you in every way imaginable. And it's important to know this. Things like, you don't have time to meditate and pray today. There are other things that you've got to do. That's one. Time to go get a snack. Or, I'm too tired to do this right now. Or, it doesn't work anyway. I may as well watch a TV show. Or, let me check my phone. That's a popular one today. So the distractions are endless, and it's important to understand that this is how we are built in a certain way because of the survival mechanism. So we don't want to condemn ourselves for it, but as long as we understand that this is how we're wired, then we can go, oh, well, that's just the part of me that wants to keep things the way they are, but I'm ready to move forward. So it's important then to let go of the distractions and to keep moving forward. So it takes a powerful decision. I've made a decision, and I am moving forward in this part of my life. And then to commit to action, taking the steps that are necessary. And here's a really important part, remaining unattached to the outcome. That is such a big one. Moving forward, unattached to the outcome. And then looking for clues, evidence that whatever your vision is showing up. So I'd like to give an example of how that's working for me and for us as a community right now, and it has to do with our building search. And all of you, many of you, some of you are tuned into it, and others may not have heard a lot about what is going on. So we have a search committee. Basically, it's Dan and Tom. Very capable people. We're very blessed. And we have a vision. Our leaders got together twice and did a visioning. What is God's highest idea of our next spiritual home? And we went into the silence and we listened. And we contemplated. And then how must we shift and change in consciousness to line up with this vision? So I collated the results. What were the key points that were in both of the different visionings, and made a list, sent them out to our leaders, sent them to Dan and Tom, of course, and then the board of trustees got together and made a list of, from that list, what are the musts that we must have and what are the wants. And that helped to kind of guide the search process. So we listened to spiritual guidance. That was the first part. The second part then was to decide, okay, now's the time to start doing it and to start taking action. So we've lined up with 2 different realtors, and one has a specialty in leasing and one has a specialty in things to purchase. Dan and I have met with a real estate lawyer to give us some advice. Dan and Tom have met with Newcastle County to make sure we get the zoning right this next time. There are a lot of steps that are going, and then of course looking at all the different properties that they're showing us, and keeping in mind the whole time, what is the vision? What's the vision that's pulling us forward? And letting go of the outcome. That's the piece that I'm really reminding myself of over and over again, letting go of the outcome, so that we can let go and let a universal intelligence that is all-knowing, that has our best interests in mind, to inform us when we see the place that's right for us, that we'll know. I'm expecting God bumps or something like that that will let me know that it's the right place. And so in the meantime, we continue to take action, we continue to focus, we continue to let go of the outcome, and we continue to let go of all the distractions, the doubt, the fear, all of the little things that might throw us off our course. That's self-mastery. That's self-mastery. And then the final step is self-mastery realization. It's living it, breathing it, moment by moment and day by day. We are all practicing to get to that point, to the point where we can live from that place of self-mastery, where we can live in full alignment with the direction that the Spirit or the presence within us is taking us. Let's breathe that in. And so leadership then, enlightened leadership, spiritually motivated moral leadership, comes from this place of self-mastery first and foremost, encourages it in other people. And that is how we co-create heaven on earth, a world that works for everyone. So let's turn within and accept this truth in prayer. And so as I stand here rooted in the awareness that God is all there is only one life, one source, one presence, one power that is all-encompassing, that is all intelligence, all love, all peace, all joy, a field of pure potentiality and possibility, and that I am a point of consciousness in this infinite sea of universal mind, as each one of us are as well. We are tuned in, tapped in, and turned on to this flow of divine inspiration and wisdom. We are guided and directed moment by moment, day by day. And we have the power of choice. We have the power to choose the direction of our life, no matter what's come before. We have an opportunity in each and every moment to choose from a place of love, to choose a different course. And that choice then becomes a firm decision. It becomes action, activity, divine activity that is inspired. Actions that lead to the fulfillment of the highest vision of our lives, whatever that might be. Knowing each one of us has a perfect part to play in this amazing thing called life. Each one of us co-creators with and in the one presence. Co-creators with each other as individualized expressions of the one. And knowing that as we stay tuned into our heart, as we let love lead, as we let compassion lead, as we let service, the desire to be in service, lead, I know that only good comes from this. Only good comes from this. And knowing that we have the power also to see and to release the distractions. See and release those distractions. Knowing that our purpose here is to glorify the presence. And so I give my thanks for this opportunity to know the truth, to see the truth, to speak the truth, and knowing that this word falls into a creative medium that surrounds us, that is within us, and that the universal law, which is not some law, but the entire law of universal mind, responds to this word and brings it into full action, into full expression, as that which is our highest desire, and that includes our new perfect spiritual home. And so I release this word into the universal law of mind. I let it be, and I invite us all to accept it with a vibrant yes, and so it is.